Hi everyone. Today this is me and Akash who is going to talk about cost optimization journey to reduce our organization's cost for GP by 20%. And starting with a huge thanks to PlatformCon. Look forward to this summit and as well as thanks for them to give us the opportunity to talk about some of the great works at MIQ with respect to FinOps that we have done over time. Quickly, a very brief introduction about both of us. I'm Rohit. I'm currently Director of Engineering from Platform Vertical at MIQ. Come from a full stack background, have been into industry for almost 10 years now, and currently lead the platform and data side of things. And we'll have Akash, who is a principal engineer and architect for MIQ, currently leading the platform vertical along with me. A very brief glimpse into what all things we'll be covering. So we'll have a very brief introduction about what MIQ is and what do we do as a business. We'll spend maybe a quick 10-15 seconds into the problem statement that we have been trying to address in last 2 to 3 years, and give a small intro into what all problem statements we have seen over time. We'll talk about a lot of the FinOps or the cost optimization strategies that we have built. We'll talk about an important aspect of observability in terms of how do we make sure that sustaining a cost in FinOps is also achieved through the observability part of our technology. Measurement and attribution, we'll also spend a little bit of time over this because ultimately these two also play a key role in terms of how do we go about making sure that the FinOps is again to the discipline of its core. And we'll end with a very quick summary of key impacts that we have been able to see in terms of our revenue, in terms of our product and tech cost, in terms of our cost of GP, and finally some like closure with a very small learnings and summary. Moving on, we are MIQ. We are a leading programmatic media partner, and we have been into business for almost 10 years now. We partner with a lot of agencies as well as marketers who would want to deliver programmatic media buying through connected insights and data-driven technologies. We almost have done 100 billion plus transaction of impressions today. We close to have 10,000 plus advertisers and campaigns that we work with. We are net and net almost 1150 employees now. We're spread across 9 countries, almost 22 regions across globally. And I mean, moving on, it's primarily a very small component of what you call Adtech, right? And imagine that a user visits a page, and I'm sure that everyone would see a bunch of ads and a slot coming up. And what happens behind the scene is that website publishers would actually communicate the entire data of who has logged in and plus the intent and the context of the user to something called as ad marketplace behind the scene, right? And while a website can hold only certain slots, let's say 8 to 10 slots of ad, but there are billions and millions of people who are trying to basically put their own content in there, right? That's how uh, busy and aggressive this marketplace is, which means that it demands a real-time auction. And that's where behind the scene there is a real-time auction being held to make sure that which is the most contextual and the relevant ad. And this is where the entire analytics and data science behaves, right? That how do we make sure that the most relevant ad is being bought? How do we make sure that publishers are able, advertisers are able to win that slot for the most relevant ad slots? So that happens through a real-time auction that ad marketplace and bigger agencies or companies like Google, Xandr, etc. do. And finally, after the real-time auction, the relevant advertiser wins, and then the particular ad slot is being sold. And the beauty of this is that this all happens within a few milliseconds or nanoseconds of time, correct? But if you look at the third slot where real-time auction is happening, this is where we come into picture as a programmatic media advertising agency. We'll work with the advertisers to ensure that we provide them the medium to do real-time analytics, modeling, data science, and make sure that we are targeting the right user for the right personas, correct? And this is being done, which means that in this 0.1 second or less than a millisecond, we almost are trading 40 plus billion ad spaces, right? But at the same point of time, we also have 20 terabytes of data on a daily basis that we generate. And all of this transactions plus the data volume that we have is basically used to compute that which is the right advertiser that we go ahead with, and whether that advertiser is meeting the intent of targeting the right user in its own context or not. And moving on, the problem statement, I think what we are going to cover today is a 4 category of problem statement. The first section that we'll cover is optimize, which is basically how can we optimize our current cost, but at the same point of time taking care of the legacy that you produce over time, but also parallelly bringing in the modernization and innovation that could actually go into the FinOps section of it, right? So we'll talk more about how do we tackle the optimization part. Observe, this goes back to the observability part that I was talking about earlier. Basically, how do you build that governance and an observability mindset, right? And rather than trying to bring in a lot of alerting and a manual monitoring, it also goes back to how you bring in a smart and an automated observability system when it comes to the cost and the financials of it. So we'll talk about a lot of the solutions that we have built from our side in the observability side of it. Third is measurement, which means that while we are optimizing, while we are observing, it is very important for your teams and individual verticals to know what they are spending on, right? Which means that you need to measure against a certain benchmark, you need to measure against what your financial goals for the year are, and that's where our goals are cost per GP. So talk a lot about how that automation and the measurement and the governance and discipline around it is being built. In the last, attribution is again superbly important because each team, each individual, everyone in leadership needs to know what part of cost is attributed and it is going where, because it is more like a feedback loop where if you are optimizing, you need to know where do you want to optimize from, and that's where attribution becomes an important. So optimize, then observe, measure it, attribute it, and then again flow it back for a further level of an optimization. So these are four section of problem statements, and what I'm going to do is pass it over to Akash.
Thank you, Rohit. Now let's take a look at all the approaches that we have implemented in MIQ. When it comes to optimization, we'll talk about an event called CLEANATHON. After that, we'll take a look at our data storage optimization techniques. Then we'll take a look at how are we managing our reserve instances. When it comes to observability, we have built an internal service called cost reporting service. We'll talk more in detail about that. Then we'll take a look at our cost anomaly alerts. Now, when it comes to measurement, we measure our cloud cost against GP. This is something that Rohit will talk in detail later. Now, when it comes to attributing the cost, we make use of structured tagging. For example, in MIQ, we make use of team, product, function, environment, and department tags. What this helps us is it helps us in doing general reporting. For example, I can ask cloud cost for a given team, product, or a business unit. Now, let's talk more in detail about CLEANATHON event. CLEANATHON is an event that we do every year in partnership with AWS team. The event lasts for 24 hours and follows a hackathon kind of model. The event is broadly classified into two categories. First one is inventory cleanup. Under inventory cleanup, we partnered with AWS team to create a detailed inventory of the resources that can either be cleaned up, right sized, or modernized. When it comes to cleanup, an example would be a volume that has not been attached with any EC2 instances for the past 1 year. That volume is something that we can definitely delete. When it comes to right sizing, we look at our EC2 and RDS utilization, and the instances which are low on utilization, we downgrade them. Now, when it comes to modernization, an example of an activity that we did was we migrated all of our GP2 volumes to GP3 volumes in one single click. This not only helped us boost performance, but at the same time helps us save cost. That's around inventory cleanup. Now, when it comes to governance, we have implemented several models to make sure that our cloud inventory doesn't grow. An example for that would be Kudos dashboard. Kudos is a dashboard that is freely available in AWS Marketplace and makes use of Amazon QuickSight. This is a dashboard that we have used where we can select a specific team, product, or any resource, and then we can do a deep dive into how that cost is growing. The tool can also forecast the cost. Now, another example that we have implemented is Service Catalog. With Service Catalog, some of the microservices deployment models we have templatized. Using that template, now we can bring up any microservice, and then when that is not needed, we can bring them down back again using Service Catalog. With this, we don't have to identify all the resources that were brought up for cleanup. Now, one more important point is lifecycle management. Now, whenever any organization they do disaster recovery, they keep backups. Now, these backups sometimes take a lot of resources and then cost. If we don't have a specific policy on how those backups will be cleaned up, this will add up onto the cloud cost bill. This is where we implement life cycle management policies. An example would be any RDS backup should be deleted after 30 days if it was taken on a daily basis. If it is a monthly backup, that should be deleted after 6 months. So that's lifecycle management. Now, this event Cleanthon is quite helpful and quite innovative when you want to cut down on your cloud cost. Now, let's take a look at our data storage optimization techniques. First one is storage length. Storage is something that we review quite regularly to identify which are the top buckets which are increasing in their data storage day by day. At the same time, we also take a look at what kind of data is being stored. Is my version data significantly higher than my actual data? Now, these are some of the things that we take regular action on to make sure our cloud costs are in check for storage. Next, we regularly review our storage patterns and add archival policies. We look at all of our buckets and how that data is being stored and then add lifecycle policies. At the same time, we add intelligence tiering to make sure the data that is less frequently accessed is moved to cold storage tiers and then cleaning up all of our multi-part uploads. Lastly, we did a POC with an AI data provider. Now, if you know S3, S3 doesn't natively offer any compression technique. This AI data provider, what it can do is it can come as a layer in between your S3, and then any data that you are writing onto S3, it can on the fly compress that data so that your cost is significantly lower. To quote some of the numbers, when we looked at Parquet files, which are compressed with Snappy, the compression ratio was up to 45%. Though we are not able to go ahead with this POC because we are making use of Databricks and then the tool doesn't support integration with Databricks Unity Catalog. But these kind of solutions have helped us cut down on our storage cost by up to 25%. Now, let's take a look at how MIQ manages their reserved instances. Reserved instances helps us significantly save cost if you are committing for a larger duration. But for certain organizations, it might be difficult to predict how they'll be using these EC2 instances after 3 years. This is where we explored offerings from AWS, NOps, and Justy. Now, an offering from AWS would be savings plan where you commit to a certain dollar value. Tools like NOps and Justy, they manage your entire reserved instances from their AI algorithm. The way this helps us is it can automatically buy reserved instances for us, and the moment we stop using our reserved instances, it will sell it off into the secondary marketplace. With that, we are not left with any commitment at all. Now, this certainly comes at a cost, which is taken away from our savings. Now, we evaluated both AWS and Ops and Justy as a solution and then figured out Justy is the solution that will work best for us. We went live with Justy and then have been using them for quite a while. And then our effective saving is 45% on EC2 instances over on demand rates with a commitment of only 30 days. While we have been using it for a while now, recently AWS made an announcement where any customer who is part of EDP plan can no longer sell on secondary marketplace. So this is where our savings plan that we are planning with Justy went for a toss. This is where we are now actively looking for making use of convertible RIs for saving cost using reserved instances. Now let's talk about cost reporting service. Having an observability on cost is quite critical for any organization if you want to make sure your cloud costs are in check. Now, if we look at different cloud providers, they offer several dashboards where you can look at your cloud cost for that particular cloud provider. But that doesn't give you a unified view across all the cloud providers as well as different tools that we are making use of. This is where we went ahead and developed a microservice called cost reporting service. Now, this service works on a plugin based model and then can integrate with AWS, GCP, Databricks, and different connectors. Now, what this service does is it collates all of the data based on tags. In this case, we target for team, product, and environment department. Now, with these tags, we capture all the cost and store in our database. With this, what we have been able to do is send teams their weekly cost and then products their weekly cost and then a cost on a department level, as well as we are able to sell cost to the leadership teams as well. Now, these cost reports are scheduled and then sent on a weekly level, monthly level. One of the most important features of these cost reports are that it gives a trend on the last 6 to 8 weeks or months usage based on what kind of report it is sent. Now, with this cost report, the way that it helps team is they are quickly able to see where their cost is growing. While it is important to make sure that we know where cloud costs are coming from, at the same time, it is also important to proactively know in case any unusual patterns are detected. This is where we make use of AWS's cost anomaly detector. And then what this helps us do is it can look at our usage patterns and identify any unusual spends. This service alerts us over email and Slack in case any unusual activity is detected. The moment any unusual activity is detected, we immediately go find the root cause of that anomaly and then identify its impact on the cost and then try to fix it as soon as possible. Now, cost anomaly detector is quite useful tool and then everyone should be using it.
Great. Thanks, Akash. As you guys saw, a lot of sections that we have covered already. I'll quickly then build upon what Akash mentioned, right, and try to cover the observe part, which was a critical piece of how do we ensure that we continue to observe what we have been doing. And hence, a critical aspect for us is the OKR measurement and tracking, right? And what we usually do is what you see an Excel sheet here is it's a visualization, and obviously with the hidden numbers, it's a visualization of how our analyzed budgets are tracked. So what usually happens is that we have a quarterly RF submissions in terms of our reach and forecast. When that happens, what you would see in this Excel sheet is that various list of tools are in the left in the rows, and then you have the columns for a monthly one, and then you have budgeted and actuals. Against the budgeted, we put the numbers that we have budgeted against, and on a monthly level, there is an automated code that basically goes ahead and put the numbers in the actuals. Correct. And budget versus actuals are actually tracked at monthly and quarterly level. So as you can see that if you're able to look at the most bottom row, there is a quarterly tracking, and then there is also a month. So there is a month up to date and quarterly up to date, which we look across. And from this number, what we do is we translate the quarterly numbers into cost per GP, which means we know our quarterly GP, we know our quarterly cost spend on product and tech infra, and hence cost per GP is basically there. This Excel sheet is something that gets automated with the cost reporting service that Akash already talked about in the previous slides, right? But yeah, this is our standard measurement and tracking framework. Moving on, the critical aspect was again attribution, right? And everything goes down till the level of tagging that we have done and ensure that the tagging is granular enough to attribute to the various teams and the verticals. And that's where what we do is we have our product and exec level leadership reports, and this is being at a cadence of weekly and monthly. So what you're seeing, for example, the screenshot is that there are various teams, and you see the last month number, this month's number, as well as the deviation, and then you have the overall trend at the bottom. This allows someone like our CTO, someone like our directors of each of the engineering verticals to know that what has been going on a month to month basis across their respective teams and organizations. And then what you see is a drill down version of each of these reporting. So if you see, this is a cost reporting for one of the teams where you see that their AWS cost, their Databricks cost, each of this is basically attached. And this is a snapshot of what those attachments are. So you will have the name of the cost provider, the service, what was the team tag, what was the vertical, what was the cost spent. So basically, first one is the reporting, second one is the attachment, third snap is the zoomed version of that attachment. And then you have this is a very good visualization of how the Databricks report zoomed in version looks like. So you can see that we go into an interactive cluster and a job cluster mode, where you could see on a month, on a weekly basis, how does the attribution in the key again looks like. We go as granular as we can. And to be honest, we are already working on making this cost reporting service open source as well, so that we show the breadth and the depth of this service that we have covered. But yeah, this goes back to the attribution impact, what we have been able to do in last 4 years, right? And just to move on quickly, while we measure cost per GP, but this is a beautiful graph that, I mean, to be honest, each of us are very proud of. As you can see that the revenue, while it continues to grow in a very step up sustainable manner, but the beauty of this is that the product and tech infra cost has actually gone down, right? And this summarizes beautifully all the good things that Akash has talked about, right? All the four initiatives that we lead, how the four initiatives are flowing back into the feedback loop. And finally, this is the number, and this is what we basically track. But a summary is business continues to grow, but a focus and an innovation on cost and the FinOps make sure that either your spend on product and tech is going down, or at the very least sustainable to be flat, right? So this is a very good closure and impact that we have made. And just to close on summary and learning that me and Akash already kind of covered, first key learning is champion goals for FinOps, right? That as an organization, as a leadership, we all need to make sure that there is a goal that you want to achieve. Our version of goal is to track cost per GP, and we have talked more than enough in terms of how do we go about measuring, attributing, tracking, etc. So championing the goals from the year start is quite crucial. Reporting and attribution at the key, right? I mean, till you don't see what you're spending on, feedback looping it into something like optimize and measure will not make sense. And hence we have built our cost reporting service. We go to as granular as leadership, exec, team, function, verticals, environment. Those are the various levels till we deep dive. Innovation at scale, as we said that while legacy is definitely there and it's a bigger beast to solve, it's difficult to be sustainable unless you continue to figure out how do you innovate. Our CLEANATHON, the hackathon event that Akash talked about, is one of the crucial ways to handle it. We try to continuously look for vendors and bring in our AI automations to also tackle a lot of these. But we never give up. I mean, at any point of time, saying that we have done what we could do doesn't help, which means that there is a continuous lookout to find out what more could be done to achieve a financial governance at the scale. And at the end, I think engage deeper partnerships. As we said, we need to realize that some businesses are meant to be doing the right thing, and hence we are continuously looking out for vendors. As you saw, a lot of vendors we have mentioned, right? We continuously look out to see that what are the innovations, what makes sense to us. We are more than happy to fail. In fact, there are 2 or 3 vendors that we have engaged and it has not worked out, but I can guarantee you that there is a deeper amount of learning from each of the engagements that we do over time, right? With this, we close our slide. I hope that you guys had a good time listening to us in terms of the achievements that we have made. There are good amount of learnings. Feel free to reach out to myself or Akash. We are more than happy to talk in more in detail. And thanks, PlatformCom team. It was a great opportunity, and look forward to many, many more years of partnerships. Thank you.